Kevin Durant reaches 32,000 points, and man, could only imagine what that would look like had he not missed a couple of seasons with injury. And then there's a little issue between LeBron James and Stephen A. Smith, which I didn't even realize existed. But then again, given that confrontation back at Crypto not that long ago, I can't say I'm terribly surprised. And man, we really got to talk about these Ohio State running or linebackers, excuse me. Wow, what an incredible performance at the Combine yesterday. It's A&J. We're here with some more sports talk, and yeah, let's get right into just that. Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles. I mean, my God, the two stand out in the linebacker portion of the NFL Combine yesterday. Of course, it was linebackers, edge defenders, and defensive tackles. And I gotta say, I feel like these two really did steal the show. I believe it was a number of people from Peter Schrager to, I believe, Tom Pelissero, and maybe even Daniel Jeremiah may even predicted that at least one of them, I think it was Sonny Styles, that was going to actually be the standout for this particular workout. And man, I don't think any of them were wrong about that whatsoever, especially when you talk about the 40 times, which both Reese and Styles tied at 4.46 for the fastest time amongst linebackers, and actually the fastest time overall yesterday. And for a good chunk of the day, it was actually linebacker Caleb Elam's Orr from TCU that actually had the lead at 4.47 until Reese and Styles stepped up, and then it was just a wrap at that point. Honestly, you may not need to be surprised too much if I talk about how I would love to see these dudes in Broncos uniforms later in my Broncos talk video later today. But man, I feel like these dudes are really legit. They are going to be incredible for whoever it is that winds up being fortunate enough to draft them. And honestly, I'd be shocked if they got outside of top 15. Honestly, I feel like they're both top 10 without question. And if either of them don't go in either of those categories, top 10 or top 15, someone's getting the steal of the draft without question. I mean, aside from maybe Kenyon Sadiq, we're talking some incredible athletes here. And man, I don't know what else to say other than there's a reason why the Buckeyes were the reigning defending champions, the reigning defending national champions going into 2025, and it had a lot to do with these two. And one way or another, they're going to have a lot to do with the success of one of these teams in the draft, or two of these teams rather, coming up in the draft here in April, late April, in a couple of months. And man, I'm going to be watching with very vested interest one way or another. Golly, these dudes are freaking abnormal, and I don't know any other way to look at that. But we're going to move along here, and I mentioned before, this is really wild to think about. And when I got wind of this yesterday on Twitter, X if you prefer, I really had no idea it was quite like this, because honestly, it seemed like in the past there was a decent relationship between Stephen A. Smith and LeBron James, but apparently that isn't the case. And if that ain't enough for you, I'll actually go over a quote that Stephen A. gave in his interview with Graham Bessinger. Not familiar with the individual conducting the interview, but man, this is some pretty telling stuff here. And I quote, and this is from Stephen A. Smith, of course: "We don't like each other. The world needs to know that. I hope he's watching. I think he crossed the line with the incident involving his son. I don't think I did what he said I was doing. I thought that was unfair and a low blow. Time heals everything. As I see his career dwindling, it's important everyone knows that I know how great he is. I know how great he has been for the game of basketball. Anyone who has been that great, excuse me, anybody who has been that great, people like me have benefited because he gives us something to talk about. He's provided a certain amount of entertainment that has made an explosive amount of lives better. Just because he and I have a difference doesn't mean he's not a good man. And I'm certainly inclined to agree with that. I'd like to think he's shown himself to be a really good person. You can talk about his whole whatever when it comes to the Diddy parties, this, that, and the third, but I don't think that should really take away from the human being that he is. Definitely a great philanthropist and has certainly done things to uplift people, especially in the African American community. But to see this actually as a thing is really kind of wild. And like I said, I didn't realize it existed to this extent until I had seen this post. And man, I mean, I guess just because he seems to be a great person doesn't mean that he doesn't rub people the wrong way. And I'll just say from my own personal experience, I try to be as good a person as I can, but somehow, some way, there are folks that end up not being the biggest fans of mine, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to be mad at that. I'm not going to hold any kind of contempt against anyone for that, but this is just really wild to know that this is actually a thing. And realistically speaking, I don't know if it really matters all that much in the long run, but if we're being perfectly honest, I just would like to think that one way or another, maybe something about this winds up being addressed between the two. Maybe they hash it out. I don't know. It's not really anything I'm particularly concerned with. It's just really, really wild to know that it's a thing to the extent that it is. But hey, I mean, we can't all be perfect, I guess. But on that note, we got to move on. And man, Kevin Durant reaching 32,000 points, and as I said to start the video, it is actually quite incredible to actually see this happening. And again, I feel like without those 2 years of injury, he'd probably be closer to 33,000, maybe 34,000, and of course that's quite a bit of a ways away from LeBron being at 43,000. Who knows if he or anyone else will reach that mark. I would like to think if he sticks around long enough, that certainly could be the case, but who knows? I mean, time can only tell with these sort of things, but it is really incredible watching really both of those careers respectively, LeBron and Kevin Durant. But Kevin Durant, most certainly, I mean, he hasn't seen the same championship success since his days with the Golden State Warriors, but one way or another, I feel like we're talking about guys that certainly belong in the pantheon, certainly in the top 10 as far as the greatest players of all time. Maybe when it's all said and done, they'll both be in the top 5. I would certainly think that a lot of people find both of them to be in that category as it is. But I feel like, if nothing else, whoever winds up looking to pass those marks, they certainly have quite a bit of work to do in their path to that level of success. But either way, let me know what y'all think. Where does this place Kevin Durant as far as one of the greats in NBA history? And what do you think about some of the other topics, specifically the linebackers out of Ohio State? I mean, gonna be crazy to see what they do on the next level. But either way, y'all know what it is. Help me out with that algorithm. Hit that like, share, and subscribe, especially if you like the content. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you know when more vids are coming through. And with that being said, this has been your time with A&J, and I appreciate you spending it with me.